Good evening, Anita. It is 6 now, but let's wait for 5 more minutes. Let's see if others join and then we'll start.
Right. No problem. Okay.
It's 6:05 now, so I think we should start today's session. Okay, so good evening and welcome to today's session for the subject Urban Governance and Development Management. This is session 11 for week 11 of lectures. So these are the lectures that you would have covered this week. So this would include uh, first lecture on enhancing city image. In this you would have studied what is the concept of city image, how different cities in India and around the world have adopted their particular identity and their particular image, how the concept of city image it came about, what is the theoretical framework behind that, things like that. And then what are the different components that form a city's image, and how to uh, measure or rate how your city is performing based on each type of component, based on certain indexes like the one city image index that you would have seen in pictures. Second is the second lecture would be on essential competencies of city managers. In this, you would have studied the various core values of good governance or good urban governance, and how the competencies of city managers are linked with those core values. Then, what are the different competencies required to improve urban governance or improve urban governance function in Indian cities, and then how can city managers develop those types of competencies. So this can be maybe done through awareness and practice, through reflective learning, exposures, and several other methods. So that again studied in the essential competencies of city. Next would be the lecture on problem solving and decision making. So in this you would have studied what problems in the context of urban development or urban governance are, how to formulate problems, then how to conceive or perceive problems as challenges, so how to formulate them or convert any problem which is there in the form of a challenge which the city or the city government has to tackle, then how you can face those challenges, and how the decision making process is a part of it. So what are the different components of a decision making process, what are the different steps, how decision making is done, and what then later how the decision making is then translated into actions. Next lecture would be on effective negotiation. So this is related to interpersonal relationship between the city managers and several other actors which play a part in urban governance. So in this you would have studied a little bit about interpersonal relationships and trustworthiness in the urban governance process, how trustworthy collaborations are formed, what is what are the different kinds of belief and actions that are required in formation of collaboration, what is negotiation in urban markets. These are all the things that we have asked. We would have covered communication skills. So this would cover what are different kinds of effective communication skills that can be used by city managers for communicating their with ideas or whatever other things with the actors related to the urban governance process. What are the different theories of communication, how they can be used to enhance the communication skills of city managers, what constitutes effective communication, what constitutes effective listening, all those things. So this is what has been covered so far this week. Now we'll start with the questions. Uh, so, so the first question for this week. So this question is asking, it is related to the image of the city concept that you would have studied. This question asks that the image of the city is a book written by which author? You have names of four authors: Norman Foster, Jane Jacobs, Lee Corbusier, and Kevin Lynch. So I won't tell you which author wrote this book, but I'll tell you a little bit of background about each of the authors so that it's easier for you to understand which authors we are talking about, what area they write about, and potentially which of these authors might have written the book which defines what the image of the city is, what is the concept behind the image of a city, and how city planners and city managers can uh, identify the concept behind the image of their own city. And uh, so, uh, starting with Norman Foster. So, Norman Foster is a British architect and was a British architect and a designer, and is closely associated with the development of high-tech architecture, and he was also a key figure in British modernist architecture. So this is who Norman Foster is. Then Jane Jacobs, you might have heard about Jane Jacobs from her very famous book, The Death and Life of Great American Cities, which she published in 1961. So, Jane Jacobs is a very famous journalist, author, and theorist who writes mostly on urban studies and urban sociology, urban economics. She's an American Canadian journalist, author, and theorist, and she has hugely argued on the subject that urban renewal and slum clearance do not respect the needs of the city dwellers. So, she has argued greatly about how urban inequalities manifest due to processes like slum clearance and urban renewal, and how they take away the agency of urban poor, and how the processes like slum clearance or land acquisition or urban renewal are essentially or ethically uh, not correct, even if they might be legally correct as uh, the people dwelling in informal residences might not own the residences or the land where the residences are located. So this is who Jane Jacobs is. Then we have Kevin Lynch. Kevin Lynch is an American urban planner and he's known for his work on perceptual form of urban environments, and might also know him from the tool that a lot of urban planners and architects use, which is called mental mapping. So Kevin Lynch was an early proponent of mental mapping, and he did several other works in the field of urban planning. urban design. So that is who Kevin Lynch is. Then Le Corbusier. Le Corbusier is a Swiss-French architect, designer, painter, urban planner, and a writer. And he is also known as one of the pioneers of what is now regarded as the modern architecture. So again, Norman Foster, Le Corbusier, both are architects architects well versed in the modern architecture. Norman Foster more in the British modernist architecture. Kevin Lynch is an urban planner and an author. And again, Jane Jacobs is an American Canadian journalist, author, and theorist. So I think from the description of the various authors also, it is quite clear that who among these might have written the book, The Image of the City, which is pertains more uh, towards urban planning, how concept of the image of city is formulated out of the different components that constitute the image of the city. Again, The Image of the City is a book by an American urban theorist. Again, this might make it clear which of these authors is the author of the book. The book is a result of a 5-year study on the cities of Boston, Jersey, and Los Angeles. And what the book tells is how observers take in information regarding the city and how they use that information to make mental maps about the city on how the urban space is organized, how various things are located in the city, what are the major landmarks in the city, what are the nodes, what are the connecting pathways which connect major landmarks of the city, all those kind of mapping or coherent understanding of the urban space is called mental mapping. And this book is the first to uh, is the first work which evolved this concept of mental mapping for urban spaces. The author's conclusion for this book was that people formulate or form mental maps of their surroundings, and it consists of 5 basic elements. So I do not remember all the 5, but things like landmarks, nodes, uh, there are several other things which are the different elements which constitute the image of the city or how people perceive the city or mentally map the city. So this is what the image of the city, the book is about. You might have studied or learned about this book in your lectures also, and I think it is very clear now which author we are talking about. If not, you can again search about the individual authors or the book, and I think we can very easily find that who is the author. Okay. So the next question. So the next question is, what is the first step of the process of decision making? And we have 4 options: identifying the problem, identifying the solutions, analyzing the problem, and developing alternate solutions. So from the question only, or from the options only, it is very clear in any kind of decision making process which kind of steps or which steps would come first. So can't identify the solution before you have identified the problem. Same, you can't identify the solution before you have analyzed the problem. Again, problem analyzing which only come after you have identified the problem. And same for developing alternate solution, that will only come when you have identified what the solutions are. Okay, so from the options also it is clearly visible that which is the first step. But again, you can consult this figure that you would have studied in your lectures. So this figure depicts how the different steps of a decision making process. So you can see here the first step is identifying the problem. So you identify what the problem is. So for if you need to make a decision for anything, you first need to see what the problem is. What do you want to rectify, or what is your objective? What is the challenge that you are facing or problem you are facing that you need to rectify? So first is the identification of a problem, because for to make decision for anything, uh, you need to first identify what is the problem that is uh, there. Second is analyzing the problem. So after you have identified the problem, you analyze it, you formulate it in the form of a challenge, you break it down into several parts, uh, maybe based on uh, different sectors, based on smaller parts in which the problem can be tackled. Then you can uh, change the problem or change the way of looking at the problem, in which you can see the problem as a challenge. So you can identify the small challenges associated to a particular problem that need to be overcome. Once you do that, then you look at alternative solutions. So to solve any kind of problem or challenge, what are the different kinds or different number of solutions are there which are available to you. You look at that, you kind of gather them and analyze them. Among them, then you move on to the next stage, which is selecting the best solution. So based on the different available solutions and based on your the problem which you have, you identify that which are the solutions which are best suited to solve your problem. Then there are several other things which you might consider, which are maybe the most environmentally friendly solutions, maybe which are the most cost effective solutions, which solutions will be socially acceptable. There are several other things which you need to consider. So after seeing all the alternative solution based on a lot of factors, you will select the best suitable solution for your problem. So after selecting the best solution, you then go ahead to converting the solution that you have considered, or the decision of selecting one kind of solution uh, into action process. So you then identify what kind of different projects or implementable uh, actions that you need to take based on solution that you want. And then after deciding uh, each action component, or maybe each project or each kind of action component, you then follow up and take action, the decision for the solution or the action that you have made. So this is the whole decision making process that you might have studied in your lectures. So again, from this also, I think it is very clear what is the first step of decision making. So I think this question again is very clear. Move on to the third question for today.
For a while, your audio was not there.
Okay, so from where do I need to repeat? You can tell me and I'll repeat from there.
Just the last 2-3 sentences.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I'll
problem
repeat.
identification. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll repeat from. I'll repeat the whole uh, chart because it's not very long. So we were discussing about the decision making process, or this chart that you would have studied in your lectures. So this is these are the different steps which are part of the decision making process. So first step always is identification of the problem. So whenever you want to embark on a decision making process, or you want to make decisions for anything, the first step which you need to do is you identify what problem is there, or why you need to make a decision, what are the challenges you are facing, what is there that needs to be done, what problem is there which needs to be solved, for which you are making the decision. So first of all, you identify the problem. Next is you analyze the problem. So if it's a bigger problem, maybe you break down into several parts. So either it can be small manageable chunks of the problem, or maybe based on different sectors. So based on that, you divide it. Then maybe you formulate the problems in a way that you identify them as challenges or perceive them as challenges, and for each challenge then you can go ahead and formulating solutions. So then this is the step of analyzing the problem. So then you go on to finding the various alternative solutions which are there, which is the next step. So whatever available solutions are there for the problem that you are facing, you find all the different alternative solutions. Then from that, you move on to the selection of the best solution. So you might have n number of alternative solutions, but from that you have to identify one solution which is best suited for your case. So in that you will see, first of all, which of the solutions available helps solving your problem or your challenges in the best way. Second, there can be several other things like which are the most environmentally friendly solution, which is the most economic solution, which is the most cost effective solution, maybe which is the more socially acceptable solution. There are several other things which you might need to consider before selecting the solution which is best suited to your case. So based on these factors, then you select the best suited solution. Then you move on to the next step, which is converting this selection or decision of this solution into action. So once you have decided that this is the problem you have, and for this these are the solutions that you are going to implement, then you convert into action. So for converting into action, you identify individual projects or individual actions that you need to take on the city level, maybe on the neighborhood level, or whatever action or whatever projects you need to take, you need to implement. You convert your solution or your decision of selecting the solutions into that action. Then you go on to the next process, which is implementation of the action that you have decided that I will implement this kind of project to solve this kind of problem. You then implement those projects, or you take action and then you follow on your decision. So this is the entire process of decision making. This is what we covered this diagram, and this will help you answer this question. Anyway, this from the options only, it is very easily understandable that which is the correct option. If not, then just follow this chart, and that again can help you answer this question. Okay, on to the next question. So the next question is three ego states in any transactional analysis uh, propagated by Eric Berne. And we have several options of the ego states: friend, acquaintance, associate, boss, colleague, subordinate, parent, adult, child, supervisor, inspector, right? So several options are there. So this question is basically, this talks about uh, communication, how people communicate based on their different ego states. So Eric Berne was a psychiatrist and an academician who is attributed to the theory of transactional analysis. What this theory does is that it explains the communication that different people have using different concepts of ego states. So any communication that anyone has in any kind of circumstance, Eric Berne says that all these conversations can be uh, classified based on ego states, and there are three kind of ego states based on which you can identify the communication. So whenever a communication is happening, you can see what is the ego state of the people who are communicating, and or you can see how the people are communicating, and you can identify in which ego state the person is, and how, based on how they are communicating, you can identify what is their psychological ego state while having that conversation. Then there are several theories based on this also, like for effective communication, which kind of ego state should you follow, in which scenario which ego state is most suited to someone for better communication, and there are several different kinds of theory. So several different parts of this theory, but we won't go into that. But what you have covered in this, that in this lecture, is what are those different kind of ego states. So what ego states are, they are basically a set of consistent and coherent patterns of thinking, feeling, and also behaving. So, ego state refers to how consistently you think and feel about a particular situation, and based on how you are thinking and feeling, then how you behave. So, that is referred to your ego state. So every individual personality has a set of ego states, which again this question talks about. So using this, people try to speak, communicate, or share their ideas. So in different circumstances, people use different ego states for communicating their ideas. So based on different stimulus, the response of people is different. So the ego state in which they are while giving that response, the ego state will be different. So again, according to Eric Bern's theory, for any communication, this is the chart or diagram for any kind of communication. So there will be a stimulus, and then due to that stimulus there will be a response, and sometimes a response can be a stimulus for someone else. So again, a stimulus will a response will generate a stimulus for someone else, which again then will respond using the other person's response as a stimulus. Okay, so again, based on this theory, Eric Berne said that there are three ego states which are present in most communications. So in most communications, a person who is communicating will have one of these three ego states. So the first is called uh, exteropsyche, in which people behave, feel, and think. So again, focusing on thinking, feeling, and behaving. So in the exterior psyche, people behave, feel, and think in response to an unconscious mimicking of the actions of their parental figures. So it's not necessarily only their parents; it can be some any elder, it can even be some leader which they follow, maybe their teacher or their guide who might have guided them. So anyone, any person who they see as a person with authority over them, and from whom they might have learned certain values or certain principles of how to behave in certain situations. When people unconsciously mimic those patterns of behavior which they have learned over time from their parental figures, and behave according to that, that is called the exteropsyche ego state. So again, the terms which are used uh, in these options are not the technical terms of this theory, but more simplified terms. So, for example, for exterior psyche, you can call it the parent ego state, because you're mimicking the actions of parental figures, figures of authority, from which you have learned certain values or actions or responses to certain situations, how your parental figures respond to a certain kind of stimulus. You have learned from them, from their behavior, and you're unconsciously mimicking or using your knowledge from their responses to again respond to your stimulus in your case. So that is called exterior psyche, or the parent. Next is the neo psyche. So, Neopsyche is most like an artificially intelligent system. So, like artificially intelligent system, your response would be collecting and processing information from your surroundings, seeing and analyzing from your surrounding how things are, saying what will create what kind of situation, saying how you should communicate, how you should not communicate, making prediction about major emotions of the person who you are trying to communicate, how what you will say will affect the person in front of you, making predictions about that, and based on that changing your behavior or manipulating your behavior to suit your needs of communication. That is called neopsyche. So again, this is also referred to as adult ego, because like adults, you are trying to intelligently understand what is going on around in your surroundings. You are taking the information, you are processing that information, and based on that, you are making predictions about the people surrounding you, how your communication, how it will affect them, will it be taken positively, will it be taken negatively, and based on that you are uh, changing and manipulating the way in which you converse or communicate your ideas or your feelings, or the way in which you behave. So this is called neopsyche or adult. The last is archaeopsyche. This refers to when people uh, behave, feel, and think similarly to how they did in childhood. So this doesn't involve thinking about learned values or principles from someone. This doesn't involve taking information from your surroundings and processing and changing your behavior according to that. This is behavior when you feel most comfortable in revealing what is your the most natural behavior or natural response that comes to you, which is very similar to how you behaved in your childhood. So this is again what is also referred to as the child state. So these are the three ego states which Eric Berne said there are in any kind of communication in his theory, and he said that in any kind of communication, the people communicating have one of these three ego states. Either they can be communicating in a child ego or archaeopsyche, behaving and communicating very naturally, like how they did in their childhood, without trying to emulate some values or principle, or without trying to understand their surroundings and manipulate their behavior, is acting very naturally and normally. That's the archaeopsyche or the child ego. Or they can behave in a more intelligent or adult ego, where they perceive information from their surrounding and alter their behavior and thoughts accordingly. And then can be the exterior psyche, so following the learned values and principles from parental figures or anyone, and then trying to emulate that in your behavior, again in an unconscious way. So that is the exterior psyche or the adult ego. So these are the different ego states that have been proposed by Eric Berne according to his transactional analysis or the theory of transactional analysis. So I hope this is clear. Moving on to the next question. So the next question is the technique that helps people better understand their relationship with themselves and others, which is created by Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham in 1955, is what? And then you have different options like the feedback loop, the Johari window, uh, a relational development model, and relationship model. So from the question itself, you can identify which is the correct answer. If I give you one hint, the hint is that the model that is created by Joseph Luft and Harrington Ingham, the name of the model is uh, a mix or a mashup of the name of the both uh, people who created the technique. So it is Joseph and Harrington, and that smushed together is the name of the technique. So again, using that also, you can identify which is the technique. But again, I'll explain each of the options which are there in the question so that you understand each of the things, and even if you get a question regarding other parts of the question, you can easily identify. So I'll just tell you uh, shortly what each of the components or each of the um, things mentioned in the options are. So first, feedback loops. So feedback loops are kind of an important aspect of any kind of closed loop control system and can be applied to a variety of fields. So a closed loop system will be where you give an input into some kind of system and then you get an output out of it. So whatever output you get, uh, based on that output and based on what you wanted, you can have some kind of positive or negative feedback. So again, you have that feedback sent back to the system, which is then again manipulated to suit uh, uh, the need for a better output, and then the system then further continues. So this is what a feedback loop is, loop because it's looping back again into the system. So it again it can be a positive feedback or a negative feedback loop, can be both. So this is what feedback loops are. Feedback loops are part of closed system in which you have some kind of input given into some kind of system from which you get an output, and based on what you wanted and what output you got, you have some kind of feedback which you send back into the system, and then you modify the system based on the feedback you got. So this is what feedback is. Next, the Johari window. So Johari window model is a method uh, used to improve self-awareness and personal development among individuals when they are in a group. So it is based on two ideas, uh, that trust can be acquired by revealing information about you to others, and also by learning yourselves about yourself from the feedback from other people. So it is a method, or it's a technique which helps you identify in which case uh, or in which case uh, like you are more self-aware, or how you can develop trustworthiness between you and the people with whom you are collaborating. So it has two axes. So one axis tells you about the level of feedback which is there, and the other axis tells you about the level of self-disclosure which is there. So starting here, this is the point where there is maximum feedback and maximum self-disclosure, and if you move into this direction, there is no feedback at this end, and if you move into this direction, there is no self-disclosure or not telling anything about yourself. So if you see this area, there is maximum self-disclosure and maximum feedback. So this means you are disclosing the most information about you to someone else, or to in a system, and then you are getting the most feedback about yourself from the system back. So it forms an open arena for discussion. So people there trust you because you have disclosed information about you to the people there, so they feel more comfortable giving you feedback. They provide you greater amount of feedback, and it becomes an open arena for discussion and collaboration because there is the most amount of self disclosure and most amount of feedback. If you go into this direction to here, where there is a lot of self-disclosure but not a lot of feedback, so it becomes a blind spot because you're telling a lot about yourself or you're putting yourself out there, but you're not getting any kind of feedback if your the things which you are disclosing about yourself are accepted or not accepted. Are those things likable, are they not likable, are they suiting to the environment's requirements or not? You're not getting any kind of feedback, so you are putting yourself out there, but you are in a blind spot because you don't know if your self disclosure is liked or not liked. Same if you move in this direction, uh, you're not disclosing anything about yourself, but you're getting a lot of feedback. So what will happen in this situation, that you'll create a facade in which you won't reveal anything about yourself, but try to make a hidden area or hidden facade behind which you'll hide your real self and try to conform to the feedback which you are getting. So you have a lot of feedback, so you know a lot about what is expected. So try to conform, you try to hide yourself, so you try not to disclose information about yourself, but try to conform according to the feedback or what is expected of you. So that is the hidden area or a facade. Then comes this area which is unknown. So neither you are disclosing anything about yourself, nor you are getting any feedback on how you are performing. So that becomes an area of complete unknown where neither thing is there, neither you are disclosing nor you are getting any feedback. This is very important for urban local bodies because as you know, for transparency of functioning, how urban local bodies are performing, they need to self-disclose about their functions. They need to tell how they are performing, what they are doing, and things like that. And then they also need to seek feedback from the citizens or various other actors and stakeholders about how they are performing. So again, based on this model, you can rank several ULBs also, how they are performing in terms of self-disclosure. Are they disclosing their functioning? Are they disclosing how they perform various municipal functions or not? And then, are they seeking feedback from the citizens or the community or not? So based on that, you can again use this also to identify in which kind of zone uh, the ULB or any other organization is there in terms of seeking feedback or self-disclosure, or are they self-aware or not, or the people who they are working with or who they are working for, do they trust the organization or urban local body? So this is the Johari window model, which is used for improving self-awareness and seeing how trustworthy some organization or some person is. So I hope this is clear. Then moving on to the relational development model. So this is what a relational development model is. It basically explains how any kind of relationship they grow and how uh, they grow and they come together, and then how people in that relationship they get apart and then the relationship terminates. So the relational development models tells you about that process. It is categorized into 10 different states, as you can see there: initiating, experimenting, intensifying, integrating, bonding, and then differentiating, circumscribing, stagnating, avoiding, and terminating. It tells you, each stage tells you about how relationship escalates and then how it de-escalates and then slowly terminates. So for example, uh, you meet someone or an organization meets with different members or people, and they initiate some kind of relationship. So you initiate some kind of friendship with someone, you go meet someone, you initiate friendship with them. Organization meets with several actors and it initiates a relationship with that. Then you experiment. So you experiment with various things that uh, the people who are in the relationship, all of them like, or all of them uh, have in common, or if in terms of organization, there will be some things which the organization would want to work towards. So you experiment with various things that you can work together, or that you can collaborate together with, or you can build your relationship together upon some kind of different elements. So for that you experiment. After experiment, you identify that which are the factors which bind you together, or which are the factors for which you can work together. So you then focus on those factors only, and your relationship then intensifies. So that is the intensifying stage. After the intensification, you are very well integrated. So you have your systems, maybe you already have an organization, you have an MOU, or in certain terms of friendship, you have certain non-verbal but friendship agreements that I do this for you, you do this for me. So certain kinds of things are then established, either a written contract in terms of an organization, or verbally or non-verbally in kind of non-formal relationships like friendship. So then you are integrated. Over time, even that integration becomes so natural that you bond. So even though you don't have a contract, or you don't have any verbal, non-verbal uh, agreements, you are bonded so that you naturally understand how you function with each other. So then that is the height of a relationship. And this is the part of coming together of a relationship or forming of a relationship. Then we can see coming apart of a relationship, which is another part of relationship development level. In this, you can see the first stage is differentiating. So you are, in this case, you already have a relationship. So maybe you are an organization or a friendship group. You already have a relationship. So first part is differentiating. So there might arise some dispute or some problem or some issue on which your views don't match, or your actions don't match, the way you want to behave on that particular situation, it doesn't match. So that rift in your thought process or how you want to function, that arises. So that is the differentiating when that rift arises. Then comes the circumscribing stage. So in your organization, your relationship, or in your friendship, anything, you try to circumscribe around the area, or you try to circumnavigate the area where your thoughts differentiate. So you try to avoid those parts where your thoughts or actions don't where you don't agree on same kinds of thoughts and actions. So you try to uh, navigate that area. You try to focus on only the areas where your thoughts and actions align, and you try to avoid the area uh, where your uh, where your differences lie. Just try to circumnavigate that. That is the circumscribing stage. Next stage is stagnating. So because of maybe now you have a lot of differences, or differences in thoughts and actions. So because of that, you are really, your relationship is stagnating. You can't really collaborate or work together, or there are so many topics around which you have to circumnavigate, that the relationship is stagnating and you don't have much in common to go on or work on. That is the stagnating phase. So after stagnating phase, because you don't have much in common, so you are not having a lot of common time, or you're not spending time on collaborating or working with each other, you start avoiding each other, or avoiding each other on certain topics or issues or something. So then comes the stage of avoiding, so where you totally start avoiding each other, or avoiding people in that organization or that relationship. So after that, you realize that this relationship or this kind of organization or MOU or anything is not working anymore. So then you terminate it. So that is the last stage, becoming a part of a relationship, which is termination. So this is what a relational development model is. It explains both how certain relationships form, and also how the relationships come apart with time. It tells them based on different stages. So based on different stages, you can identify in which stage a particular relationship is, and based on that, you can further identify what needs to be done. So this is what relational development model is. The last option in the question was relationship market. So a relationship marketing is a strategy for customer relationship management that emphasizes customer retention, satisfaction, and lifetime customer value. So this is what relationship marketing is. Its purpose is to market current customers versus new customer acquisition through either sales or advertising. So improving sales or better advertising, using that you can either retain customers, increase customer satisfaction, and its lifetime customer value. So, a good relationship marketing strategy is rooted in building customer loyalty and lasting long-term engagement, and all of the aspects associated with building good relationship marketing strategy and creating better sales strategy is associated with relationship marketing or relationship marketing. So, this is what the last uh, option for this question also. So I have explained to you all of the components of this question, and I think from that you can easily identify that which is among these is the technique that can help people better to understand their relationships not only with themselves but with others also. Okay, I hope that is clear. Okay, moving on to the next question. Just give me one minute. Okay, moving on to the next question. So this is the fifth question, which is select the option which lists the four constituents of city image. So this question is very similar uh, to the earlier questions in which we studied what are the components which constitute a smart city. So this is very similar. So for any either livability index or how what are the different components which make a city smart, or what are the different components that you need to focus on while making smart cities or while improving city image. These are very similar, so you might remember this from earlier discussions also. So there are four different components or four constituents which you need to focus on while improving any aspect of the city. It can be livability, it can be smartness, or integration of information communication technology, or it can even be for improvement of the image of your city. So uh, again, from the questions, as from the options, as I asked you to pay attention in the last session also, that you can see if from the options itself, if some of the options, uh, like for example environmental and ecological, uh, are they part of physical infrastructure only, so can they go with that? For example, industry is a part of institution, so industry can go with institution, or some part of industry is part of physical infrastructure, it is a part of physical infrastructure only. So you can see from this also that are only the four constituents are mentioned in the options, or several subsets like industry, people, etc. is also mentioned. So based on that, you can see again, you can go back to this diagram also. So you can see the four components: social, physical, institutional, and economic. So here it is written infrastructure. So because based on each component, there is infrastructure also associated. Then there are things like what these components do. So they improve the quality of life, they improve investment opportunities, they employment opportunities, and even activities. But essentially, what they do is create better livability, or they make the city more smart, they make the city more sustainable, or they improve the image of the city. So it's basically these four components, and improvement in these components will lead to improvement either in the city image, or in the livability, or in the smartness of the city, several different. So these are the constituents that you need to focus on. Again, if you want to see what formulates the city image, You can go through these questions. These were the questions again which were mentioned in your lectures. So what constitutes the city? Is it only physical? Is it only the physical components of the city which constitutes your city image? Or is it the governance system also? Is it the people also? You can answer that very easily. Then what are the social and cultural elements which make the city image? Again, it's not only physical. There are social cultural elements also which make your city's image. Is governance linked with the image? Again, uh, how how we experience the city services, again, the ease of how you can use the city services, how accessible they are, who they are accessible to. There are several things uh, linked to how you experience the services. Based on that also you can identify your city's image. So again, which components of your city are beautiful, which are ugly, and which are non-functional, they define your city's image. So these are several different questions which you can again ask yourself to identify the image of your city. But again, all of these components are based on four key constituents only, which is the social, physical, institutional, and economic. So I hope this is clear. Moving on to the next question, which is the last question for today. So this question asks, is empathy is a result of which combination of trust and power relations in interpersonal relationships? So again, similar to the Johari window, this is a chart for the level of trust and the level of power. So if you move into this direction, this is the area where there is lowest trust, and this is the area where there is highest trust. We move into this direction, this is the area where the power is lowest, and this is the area where power is the highest. So uh, in this box you will have high trust and high power. So the level of power which different people have, or people in that interpersonal relationship, the level of power that both people have is also high, and the level of trust that they have on each other is also high. So that means that they both will have similar kind of power and similar kind of trust on each other, because it is high. It is both. They both have power also, and they trust each other also. It means that they have equal amounts of power in order to be able to trust each other. So this is a kind of situation in which they can collaborate. Because in order to be able to collaborate with someone, you need to first have power also in order to collaborate, and then you need to trust the other person. So in an interpersonal relationship where there is high power and high trust, it is kind of a collaboration kind of a relationship. Then where there is high power but the trust is very low, so in this case, so in some kind of interpersonal relationship, the power level of power that one person is exercising, or that is being exercised in that interpersonal relationship, the power is very high, but the level of trust is very low. So this means that the power is skewed, because the other person who does not have power cannot trust the other person in the relationship. Same, the person who is exercising the power has all the power, so he cannot trust the person who he is exercising his power over, because the person does not have any power, so he will behave accordingly what the person in higher power is saying. So again, this is kind of a relationship which is dominating or crushing kind of relationship, in which there is high power but low trust, because the power is skewed. Then again, in the situation where there is uh, low trust and low power, so neither party has power over the other, or they don't even trust each other, so they will just try to avoid each other because they don't have power over another, and neither they trust each other also, so they'll just try to avoid each other, and they will have apathy, so they don't understand each other's perspective also. This is the case of apathy or avoidance. Then when you have high trust on each other, but you don't have power to affect each other's decisions. So in that case, you understand how the other person is feeling, how what the problems they are facing, but you don't have any power to help. That is the case where you have empathy. So the level of power over other person's decisions or how other person is performing is very low. You can't affect how other person is performing, or you don't have power over the other person, but you trust each other. So that is the case of empathy. So I hope again this power and trust relationship, or power and trust relationship, interpersonal relationships is also real. And you can easily answer this question. So this was the last question for today. Thank you for attending today's session. If you have any doubts, please go ahead and ask.
Thank you, ma'am. I just want to know for the, I think the exam has been scheduled for 26th of this month.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it? Are we going to have just an objective kind of exam, or is it going to be essay type questions? How is
You
it going
can
to be?
expect it to be a mixed. You can probably expect it to be a mixed kind of exam. You might have both objective and subjective questions. I don't exactly know what kind of question paper is being set, because I don't set it. The question paper is set by the course coordinator. So essentially, they know the information. But expect that both kind of questions might come. Exams.
Okay, and is there any possibility to get last year some sample papers or something like that where we can have a look?
Uh, I'll
Last,
I'll check, and I'll let you know in tomorrow's
okay,
next week's session if that is available.
fine. Thank you. I just wanted to know. Thank you.
Also, I wanted to inform that
Huh.
there has been talk that if I want to take an additional session, an extra session where I can just do a recap of all the lectures that have been covered, and uh, you can bring in questions from everything that has been covered so far. So if you are interested in it, I can have an additional session. So next week will be week 12, and then
Yeah.
and I can have an additional session in which you can come with your doubts, with everything that has been covered so far, and I can just take a quick recap of what has been covered and go over all of your doubts.
Oh, that'll be great, ma'am. If it's possible, that'll be fantastic.
Okay, so I'll just fill in my details for the additional session, and
Yeah.
if the additional session is going to happen, it will be communicated to you when it is going to happen. Okay.
Okay, so we'll get a mail on it, right?
Yes. The same like the mails you get for all the live sessions, you'll get the mail for the additional session also.
Okay, that'll be great, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So you don't have any further doubts?
No, this is there's a clarity, and this next assignment is where probably there are certain questions, but then that's going to be taken up only next week. So we'll just leave it like that. So once there is something, I'll get back to you. Thank you so much.
So
Thank you. Yeah.
I think I'll close the session for today. We'll meet next week and
Okay.
take up any doubts if there. Okay,
Thank you
you
so
for
much.
attending.
Right. Good night. Bye.